This is episode 4 of the mini series that we at Ultra Uncovered are doing on the Cocodona 250. If you've not listened to our first 3 episodes, we highly recommend you go back and check those out. First with Jeff Garmeyer, then Arlen Glick, and most recently Shelby Farrell. We are talking today to the visionary behind the Cocodona 250, Jamil Coury. We're discussing Jamil's experience in ultra running, particularly his participation in the inaugural and 2021 Cocodona 250. The challenges he faced during the race, exciting changes to the course for the upcoming year. The conversation also touches a little bit on the future of ultra running, the increasing competitiveness of the sport, and predictions for the next edition of Cocodona. Jamil shares insights on the evolving landscape of ultra events and the potential for Cocodona to become a lottery entry race due to its growing popularity. It's a great episode. We really appreciate Jamil coming on. He is, obviously a figurehead in the sport and really appreciate him taking the time. A couple of quick notes before we jump into the episode. One, I have 2 new items available in the Women Can store, and we'll put links to those in the show notes. But we have the tank I'm wearing right now, which is kind of the OG. This is a muscle tank, long, not cropped version. It is a unisex sizing, and those are available on our Pressio site. We also have some really cool race day tanks coming out in a very performance material. It's a high-end, super breathable, very, very thin and lightweight material with the Women Can logo on it so that you can rock these tank tops during your races. And those are going to be on a pre-sale on the Shopify site. So thank you so much for checking those out and supporting the Women Can movement and the message. Also, we are really excited to be just having a race coming soon to our backyard called the Rock Hawk 25K. Want to give that a quick shout out. It is an Air-Viper race, and it is on our home trails, 5 minutes from where I live. These are the trails that we run all the time. My husband Graham and I did a quick kind of recap or a recon run showing some of that course on our latest YouTube, which is Shalvoy Running. And those will be, that episode is out now, so you can check that out. Last thing, if you are enjoying the podcast, we would really appreciate it if you would, give us a follow, share it with someone, and just help spread the word on continuing to grow it so that we can keep putting out good information for the entire community. Thank you so much. Enjoy the conversation with Jamil. Welcome back to Ultra Uncovered. I'm Corinne Shalvoy, joined by Russell Ditsworth. Today we are welcoming, I don't know, Jamil, I'm going to call you the godfather of ultra running. I don't know what you think of that term, but Jamil Coury, thank you so much for joining us, specifically here today to talk a little bit about Cocodona.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Well, I don't think you need any introduction, but Jamil, you're the head of Air-Viper Running. You are also a athlete, 147 finishes on Ultra Sign Up, not including, as we've heard in the past, doesn't include any of the UTMB stuff. We'll figure out someday how to get all everyone's results in one place, maybe on ultrarunning.com. We'll see. But you also are the creator, inventor, visionary of the Cocodona 250, which has become an incredible event. And I think first, before we dive into Cocodona, everyone probably wants to know how many Chipotle burritos you have redeemed so far in the year.
I think I'm up to 4 redemptions thus far out of the 52 that I have. Yeah,
that is not very much. Are you going to start having them that's lower than I thought. Is that lower than you were planning to use?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it took me a few weeks to finally get to using it, and they're good until February of 2026, so I have some time to space it out a little bit.
Okay, all right. Well, that seems like a slow start, but maybe you'll get a second wind and get on a good schedule. All right, 4. So go ahead, Russ.
Well, Jamil, we know, back when you were doing the Chipotle Challenge, you had mentioned hey, this is really kickstarting a season of training, and you've got both Hard Rock and Western States on the docket. I just checked. We just checked Ultra Sign Up, and Cocodona is still there. So, are you planning to line up at Cocodona this year?
I don't think so. I'm just having a hard time withdrawing just because it's such an amazing event, but I don't think it would be very smart. So I might drop down to a shorter distance though. I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
The Mingus Traverse, the new one.
That's kind of the one I'm eyeing. You know, it fits pretty nicely in the week. I could see the start on Monday, I could race on Tuesday, and then I could see the winners on Wednesday. So, and it might be nice to highlight the new one and kind of break it in. And it seems like an amazing route and course. So it'd be interesting to finish a Cocodona distance race, not in Flagstaff and instead in Sedona. So that's kind of appealing to me.
When you start, if the for the starters of the Mingus Traverse, are they going to start in the middle of the Cocodona field, or where will they be in relation to the Cocodona field?
Yeah, so it's a Tuesday morning start. Our lead runners, they get to Whiskey Row, Prescott area where the Mingus Traverse starts sometime after dark, like in the middle of the night. And so, this will be day 2 in the morning. I think it's 7 a.m. start, I believe. So about 26 hours into the 250. So, there will be 250 runners heading through
On
there
course.
and like
Yeah.
a kind of a chance to go back and forth with them a little bit. And it's a pretty small field for Mingus right now. I think we have about 50 people signed up for this inaugural year. So I think it's kind of a good start with that size of a field.
I think it's a great distance, and I love how they're going to be intermixed in there.
Yeah. And it really adds to just kind of creating that whole like festival week long, an option for everybody. Probably would be amazing training as well for your big double that you have coming up, Western and Hard Rock. So could be some good
Yeah, it
training.
seems like the smartest distance out of all of them to do, where it's like a nice long run. You know, I don't even know how long it would take to run 78 miles just offhand, but maybe you're done by midnight, sometime early into the evening would be kind of fun. But yeah, I think it's a good distance. 125 would be, I think it's doable too, maybe a bit more of a stretch, but for me, I'd be missing the winners in flag, and that to me feels like I'd want to be there this year. It sounds like a lot of fun. Unless I was somehow participating in the full thing, then all bets are off.
All right, so we'd love to know just a little bit about your 2021 Cocodona experience. From what I understand, at that point you had done another 200 Tahoe in 64-ish hours. So this was your Cocodona 250, what was around 90 hours, I believe. So tell us a little bit about the race. I don't, you're one that I think does every race that you create so that you can experience it and know what it's all about. But like, what was the intention and what was your experience? If you could kind of just sum it up in a short story.
Yeah, I did run Tahoe in 2018, and then we did the Cocodona Origins, I call it, experience where we did about 200 miles of Cocodona route from Black Canyon City to the outskirts of Flag. We stopped at Fort Tuthill in 2019. And then, yeah, I was in a unique position of having a race director. Steve Adderholt was already on board handling the logistics of the event. And then we had a live stream team kind of lined up, and I don't even remember how we got the idea that I could run it the first year, but part of me did want to be out there in the trenches with everyone that first year, experiencing it alongside everyone and kind of, I don't know, just that's just authentically who I am. Like I legitimately wanted to do it, and no better way than just to be out there. So decided to go for it. And it was a very different experience than Tahoe. I mean, 50% more time. I think I was just under 93 hours. And it was for sure the hardest thing I had done up until that point in time, maybe even since then in my ultra running career. And it's just so far different than that even Tahoe was just out there so long. It's crazy.
Yeah, 92 hours and 59 minutes. Were you really, really aiming for under that 93? Did
Oh,
you
I don't
even
think I
know?
cared. I don't know
At
if
that
I
point,
knew. I don't think it mattered. It didn't matter. Nah, it didn't.
Yeah. Was it harder than you thought? I mean, you'd done the kind of the recon and the route kind of building when you created it, but like, what made it the hardest thing that you've done?
Yeah, the recon was a little different. We stopped every night and slept either in tents or hotels. That week was interesting back in 2019 because we had weather all week. It was raining almost every day on us, almost all day. And so there was even snow that fell behind us in Crown King. Like we woke up the next morning and looked back, and there's like snow-capped peaks right there, which was pretty crazy. And had it been the race, like people would have been going through that on night one, and that was the same week as we have Cocodona, so it's kind of wild. We haven't had a year like that yet, and there was some crazy mud up on the Coconino Plateau that was kind of wild. But yeah, where was I going with that? I think what made it so hard for me, I was working a lot leading up to the race, and honestly not 100% sure I was even going to start the race until very, very, maybe even race morning the day before. I didn't get much sleep going into it, so I kind of just I'm just going to go for it and start the race and see what happens. And so um I ended up sleeping, I think, a lot more than I was hoping. Probably got about 8 hours of sleep for the whole week, 93 hours, which doesn't sound like a lot, but I think it kind of is a lot for that, for maybe what I was expecting. I think at Tahoe I got like 2.5 in 64 hours, which felt a lot more like I was racing it the whole way.
Okay, Jamil, I was listening back to Between Two Pines. You were the first guest on that podcast, and both Dom and Andy were giving you a hard time about the first 37 miles of Cocodona. Um, but I noticed that at the end of the race this year, instead of going up the steep part of Eldon, the course is going down the steep part of Eldon. So is this another call to making the course more difficult for the runners? And maybe talk a little bit about that course change because I think it's pretty critical. I'm not sure how many people have thought about that at the end of the race now.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it will make it more challenging at the end. Instead of climbing up that steep, technical, rocky trail, you're going to be going down it. And whereas before you're going down maybe a nice
Smooth,
dirt
yeah.
road, um, yeah, it's just going to be a different experience. So, I mean, a big piece of that change was once again having to do with the Mexican spotted owl. And in working with the Forest Service, there is an owl pack or protected area. It's actually on part of that downhill road section. There's a nest that is nearby that section. And, we're trying to be in the good graces of the National Forest and working with them for the future of the event. And, we kind of was determined that we needed to pull the aid station that was up there, and just with the runners that it was best for the race and best for the wildlife and everything, at least for this year. We never know what's going to happen in the future. Things could change again. But that was kind of behind the scenes what was going on with that change. You do go up a really nice alternative trail to get to the top of Eldon. And so, but yeah, if you haven't scoped out that change, be sure to check it out. One of the other major changes is coming out of Sedona this year for the 250-mile runners. Instead of crossing Oak Creek and going up Kasner Canyon Trail, you're going to be going up the Hangover Trail, which is one of my favorite trails in Sedona. It's iconic. It does have some steeper slick rock sections, so we're kind of trading out one thing for the other in both the Sedona climb and the final Eldon climb.
Well, and it's tough, right? It's such a long race, and those are so far into the event that it's not like you're timing it for daylight or darkness for any particular runner. They're going to be all over the course. So I can just imagine, being 240 miles into the race and having to go down that in the dark in your last 10 miles. Be very careful. We don't want like a mountain marathon downhill type of situation here.
Yeah, it's not quite as bad as Mount Marathon, but yeah, it'll be rocky. Bring your poles most likely for that section.
I've seen some stories of people doing recon and kind of training camps out there, and everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, this is the end. This is what the end looks like." And yeah, I don't know. I would rather go down it than up it personally, but that's just me. But yeah, either way, it's going to be crazy. So so it's not going to make any kind of significant difference in the like the distance essentially will be the same. Do you think it's going to affect the times run at all, or are they too short of sections?
Well, as happens every year with Cocodona, there's always changes. As you can imagine, with 250 miles spread out point to point, there's always tweaks and changes and things that are not the same year to year for various factors when dealing with somewhere upwards of like 40 or 50 landowners, permitting agencies, etc. We've never had a year where it's been the same year to year. It's always been changing, and this year is trending a little longer. Some years we're very close to 250 miles. We've had it as high as I think 256 or 257 that first year. I believe right now we're around 255, and it still could change before the race as we dial in the final things before this year. So I would say we are trending a little bit longer, and so probably a little bit slower overall for the event. And of course, we don't yet know what the weather will be like, which is a huge factor.
Yeah, for sure. So Russ and I both attended the Chase film. Highly recommend if you haven't seen it. It's amazing. I heard you guys had like 600 people out in Phoenix just recently, or a big turnout. It's an incredible film. Really, in just interesting to learn about the 2024 participants on the men's side. What is exciting you about the 2025 edition of Cocodona 250?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot in there. I mean, not only do we have a new distance that's debuting, we have incredible fields for, I think, both the men and women's side. Some big names. Like, I think we've all been dreaming of Courtney Dauwalter running Cocodona 250. She was out there the first year pacing and crewing, myself and Maggie, which was really cool. That is exciting. Definitely a strong women's field like we've probably never seen before on this race, with some multiple champions that are returning, also some new faces that are FKT through hike style. One other interesting feature of this year is we're seeing more international athletes of a higher caliber. I think the two biggest that come to mind is Ryan Sands from South Africa and Jack Scott from the UK. I don't know how many people have seen this article, but it's on the Innovate website, who is one of Jack Scott's sponsors. But he won the spine race and broke Jasmine Paris's course record that she had outright he broke it by 10 hours. And he took a sabbatical from his job to train for Cocodona. He's using like a state-of-the-art heat and altitude training facility at like a university in the UK. And then he's moving to the south of Spain this month to train for Cocodona. So he's basically going all in on this. So yeah, I'm excited to see kind of definitely some strong returning runners going up against some of these newer faces globally. And it'll be interesting to see. Just, I think Cocodona is going to come of age on a global scale this year. Like, I think it's going to really be well known after, Ryan Sands has a pretty big following. I think there's going to be a film about his race. So I think it's going to just spread more and more.
I mean, thinking about that, I think the question that comes to mind is, do you foresee a future where Cocodona is a lottery entry race?
I think it's going to be inevitable. We're talking about it right now, whether we'll do that next year or if we have more years left. But just with how quickly it sold out for this year's edition and the size of the wait list, and the fact that we don't know if we can get more permit spots, it's probably trending in that direction.
A related question, you've got 6 finishers that I think you just were able to send out 1,000-mile buckles to. So I'm going to list off the names, and I'd love to get your thought on who you think has the best chance to get 10 finishes. So it's Jeff Garmeyer, Andy Glaze, and then Aaron Fleischer, Wes Plate, Brian Janicek, and Jose Sosa.
I mean, can I say all of them, or is that a cop out? Like they're,
It's a little bit of a cop out. If you want to
yeah.
pick one that you think is the most likely to make it,
I guess, I mean, I'd probably give it to Jeff Garmeyer. I think he's a little bit younger than some of those guys, and with just his background and experience, I don't see how he wouldn't get 10.
love it. Then you'll got to have a 2,500-mile buckle.
My gosh.
That's wild.
The buckles at Leadville have gotten ridiculous. Some of these guys that have done the mountain bike race 30 times, they've got like not dinner plate, they've got platter plate buckles
Oh my gosh.
that go.
We'll
So
have to start scheming pretty soon.
Yeah.
exactly, exactly.
I think it's super interesting. You know, I heard you mention that you thought 2024 was a year that kind of, you know, shifted where we saw the competitive aspects of the race come out with, you know, Browning, how he was running it as if it was a 100 miler. And I think with, you know, the continuation of that with the global field, it's just, yeah, it's seeming to become a very, very, you know, just competitive kind of, I don't know, distance. And I don't know. I think, do you think that in the future we're going to see people really like focusing on 200 milers? I mean, how many we have Brody Chisholm, who we told the story of his family, notice that he's signed up again for Cocodona and doing the, sorry, there's a loud truck, sorry, and doing Tahoe Bigfoot Moab, the Triple Crown this year at 18 years old. So just thoughts on kind of, you know, the younger groups of athletes kind of jumping into this kind of distance.
Yeah, I can only see it continuing. It's a new exciting landscape for this next challenge. I mean, we're simultaneously seeing it happening, I think, across the whole sport where everything seems to be getting more competitive. You're seeing it, course records going down at so many different marquee events. You know, Black Canyon has never been faster, more competitive. Western States, never faster, more competitive, which, you know, we're probably likely to see a course record this year in order to get the win, I think is what everyone's thinking about. And now we're seeing, you know, at Cocodona, what, five, six guys going under the course record previously. And I think we'll see that continue. And I think we're also seeing the folks that are great at 100 milers, they're getting intrigued, I think. And movies or films like The Chase, I think will likely contribute to that intrigue. I think if they, it's no longer, you know, folks kind of doing a supported through hike, which is maybe what these have felt like for the last decade. Not saying there's anything wrong with that. And I think not to say it should only be competitive. Like, I think the beauty of it is this, these events can be approachable for almost anyone. And we've seen people that have not even done 100 miler have completed these events because they do have time. You have time on your side, 50 miles a day. You know, it is doable for a lot of people, but I think I can only see that this trend continuing on the competitive end.
Well, and even in the Sedona Canyons 125 and the Mingus Traverse, you're giving folks a huge amount of time to do that. That is way more approachable than trying to finish Leadville in 30 hours. You know, it makes a lot more sense from that perspective on the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons we wanted to do that and include shorter distances too, but not have some tight time limit in order to grab a buckle or a medal at the finish line.
Okay, should we do the celebrity, the Cocodona celebrity either or? So we're going to name two runners, and you have to pick who's going to finish first out of those two runners in this year's edition of the race. So Corinne, I'll let you go through the names, and Corinne and I have both already answered these in previous, so we'll come up with like a Sunday Night Football type of chart where everyone gets to pick who goes where. But we'd love to hear your answers on these.
All right, so we've got the Andes, Andy Jones Wilkins or Andy Glaze.
I'm going to give it to Andy Glaze.
Okay, we've got the Kevins, Kevin Goldberg or Kevin Russ.
Ooh,
Your
interesting.
nemesis.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it to Kevin Russ.
Your frenemy.
Yes.
That's good. That could be a close one to watch out for. Interesting.
Yeah, we've got the
Because Kevin
Haynes.
Goldberg's been good, like
Oh,
really
yeah,
strong.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And he's run it 3 times and just, yeah. Okay, we've got the Haynes. We've got Jesse Haynes and Cameron Haynes.
Oh man, I got to give it to Jesse.
Okay, more experience. Is that the thought behind that, or?
Well, yeah, like he got the win at Moab 240, and I mean Cam Hanes is also fast and strong. But I'm gonna give it to Jesse on
Okay,
this one.
okay. We got the Satisfy showdown between Max. Is it Joliffe, or how do you pronounce his last name?
Jolef.
Joliffe, Max, and Michael Versteeg.
Ooh, man, that's a tough one. Um, I think Versteeg's going to surprise this year. I'm going to give it to him. I think he's due for a really good one.
Amazing. Okay. All right.
He's going to get his crew situation dialed, I think, this year.
Okay.
That's been his downfall and his weakness.
Got it. Okay. We've got the 200-mile specialists, Rachel Entrekin or Mika Thews.
Ooh. We got Rachel who won last year. Mika was in the lead. I think Mika is going to get revenge this year.
Okay. Okay. We've got Flagstaff women, Georgia Porter and Sarah O. Ostazuski.
Mm. Ooh, that's real tough.
Yeah.
You got Sarah, the experienced champion, and you got Georgia, the Arizona Trail wild card. I'm going to go with the experience with Sarah.
Okay. Okay. We've got, well, he's kind of new to podcasting. I don't know what we'd call these. They're just kind of celebrities. We got Finn Melanson versus Jeff Garmeyer.
Ooh, interesting. Ooh, I'm going to go with Finn.
Okay. Yeah, he looked good at the Antelope Island. Although that was kind of redemption, it looked like from
And they finished back to back last year.
Oh,
They did. They
Sixth,
were
sixth and
sixth
seventh.
and seventh.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Okay,
And I know Garmeyer's going for it too,
yeah,
so that'll be a good one.
He already had Chris Warden do his finishing call of him winning on his
I saw that. That was hilarious. So
yeah.
good.
Okay, last one is Harry Sabertes versus Ryan Sands.
Ooh, man. It's tough. I'm like Ryan Sands feels like a total wild card at this distance. I'm just not sure, but it would be fun to see him succeed and do really well. So I'm going to go with Ryan Sands.
Okay, awesome.
Love it. I feel like we could pick like 5 more duos too, but appreciate you keying in there and loved having you here on the podcast. Corinne, you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, no. I think that list just tells people why they should all tune in to follow the race this year, because that's only that's scratching the surface of
It's like
the
tip
field.
of the iceberg.
Yeah, and there's some amazing stories. And
we didn't even mention Courtney DeWalter.
We didn't. What? Yeah.
Courtney versus Jack Scott.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, and Jack Scott's story is amazing. I didn't know that. So thanks so much, Jamil, for telling us a little bit about it. It is I don't know, it's becoming a fixture in the sport, and it's so cool to see the growth of it, and something that I know is kind of a vision and dream come to life for you. So really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.